What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? Emma Collins stared at the glowing laptop screen in her cramped apartment, the blue light casting shadows across her tired face. She had been staring at that same blinking cursor for what felt like hours, waiting for some kind of sign, some kind of miracle. Just a few months ago, Emma had a promising career as a tech journalist at one of the top online magazines in San Francisco. She was the rising star everyone was talking about, known for her sharp insights, fearless reporting, and passion for uncovering the truth behind the world's most innovative companies. But then everything fell apart with one article. One article that had offended the wrong people, pushed the wrong buttons, and ultimately cost her everything, her job, her reputation, and the fragile sense of confidence she had managed to build over the years. Emma ran her hand through her dark brown hair, her fingers trembling slightly. She felt lost, like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to jump or turn back. Her phone buzzed on the table, a message from her best friend Mia. "Hey, how are you holding up? I miss our talks." Emma smiled faintly and typed back, trying to hang on. "It's been rough." The truth was, she felt like giving up. She was drowning in self-doubt, haunted by the thought that maybe she wasn't cut out for this world at all. She looked around the small room she called home, a modest studio apartment in Oakland, with peeling paint on the walls and a view of the city skyline that felt both beautiful and cruel. The place where she had dreamed big and worked harder than anyone else. She thought about her mother, who had passed away when Emma was just 16. Her mother had always encouraged her to chase her dreams, to never settle. But now, that voice felt distant, almost impossible to hear over the noise of failure and loneliness. Then, just as she was about to shut down her computer and call it a night, the screen lit up with a new email notification. The subject line caught her breath: exclusive interview invitation, Elon Musk project. Emma's heart pounded. Elon Musk, the name itself was like a lightning bolt, full of power, controversy, and endless fascination. He was a man who had transformed entire industries, from electric cars to space travel, a man known for his relentless ambition and at times ruthless drive. For months, the media had been buzzing about a new project Musk's team was secretly working on, something that promised to change the future once again. But Musk was notoriously private. Invitations to interview him were rare and fiercely guarded. And yet here it was, in her inbox, a personal invitation. Emma clicked open the email with shaking hands. The message was brief but clear: "We would like to invite you to cover our upcoming project launch. This is a unique opportunity to see the work firsthand and speak with Mr. Musk in a private setting. Your perspective as a journalist is valued." Emma reread the message, disbelief mixing with a flicker of hope. Was this a second chance? Could she rebuild her career by telling the story no one else had access to? The invitation felt like a lifeline thrown into the stormy sea of her life. But there was also a whisper of doubt. Was this real? Or was it some kind of trap, a way to discredit her further? She thought about her recent mistakes, the harsh words from her former editor, and the silence of the people she once called colleagues. Taking this opportunity could be the breakthrough she desperately needed, or it could destroy what little was left. Emma's mind raced with questions, but one thing was certain: she couldn't ignore it. The chance to meet Elon Musk, to uncover the truth behind the headlines, was too important. She closed her eyes for a moment and remembered the question she often asked herself in the darkest times: what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? For Emma, it was her belief in the power of stories, how the right story, told with courage and heart, could change lives. She typed a quick reply accepting the invitation and then sat back, feeling the weight of possibility settle over her. The next days passed in a blur of preparations and anxious anticipation. Emma reached out to Mia, who insisted on helping her get ready and reminded her that she wasn't alone. Her younger brother Jake, though worried, offered encouragement over phone calls, telling her he believed in her. On the morning of the interview, Emma dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made her feel confident but not flashy. She packed her notebook, voice recorder, and camera, tools of her trade that she hoped would serve her well. The ride to the location was surreal. The city blurred past the windows as she headed toward the outskirts where Musk's team had arranged to meet her. When she arrived, she was greeted by a sleek black electric car waiting to take her to the secretive launch site. The building was a fortress of glass and steel, futuristic and imposing, humming with quiet energy. Emma's heart raced as she stepped inside. The lobby was vast and minimalist, filled with screens showing space rockets, electric cars, and ambitious plans for a sustainable future. She was led down a corridor where engineers and technicians moved with purpose. Then, she was ushered into a private room where Elon Musk himself awaited. He looked different from the public image she had built up in her mind. The man was intense but surprisingly approachable, his sharp eyes scanning her with curiosity rather than judgment. "Emma Collins," he said, extending a hand. "I've heard a lot about you." She smiled nervously and shook his hand. The conversation began cautiously, but soon, Musk began sharing stories from his childhood, his failures, and the sacrifices he had made to get where he was. Emma listened, captivated not just by the facts, but by the emotion behind them. For the first time, she glimpsed a side of Musk the world rarely saw, a man driven not only by ambition but by a deep, sometimes hidden kindness. The day unfolded with moments of tension and surprising warmth. Emma's doubts didn't vanish, but they softened as she realized this story was more complicated than she had expected. As she left the building that evening, the city lights shining around her like 1,000 tiny stars, Emma felt something she hadn't in a long time: hope. The story she was about to tell wouldn't just be about Elon Musk's innovations or controversies, it would be about the secret kindness that powered his vision and the unexpected connections that could change everything. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, betrayals, and moments when she'd want to give up. But she was ready. Ready to discover the truth. Ready to write a story that mattered. And maybe, just maybe, ready to find herself again. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emma Collins' story didn't begin with a shining moment or a triumphant victory. It began in a small town tucked away in the rolling hills of western Pennsylvania, a place where everyone knew your name and your family's history before you could even walk. She was born to Sarah and Tom Collins, a hard-working couple who ran a modest hardware store on Main Street. Life was simple, quiet, and sometimes painfully slow, but it was filled with love and small joys. From a young age, Emma was a curious child. She loved asking questions about everything. The stars in the night sky, the machines her father fixed at the store, the old books her mother read at bedtime. But life wasn't always easy for her. Her mother had struggled with illness for years, and Emma often found herself playing the role of caretaker while trying to keep up with school. The sharp contrast between her mother's fading health and her father's stoic strength shaped much of Emma's early world. Tom was a man of few words, his silence sometimes as heavy as the tools he worked with. He wanted to protect his family, but he often struggled to show his emotions, especially with Emma. Their relationship was complicated, filled with unspoken expectations and moments of quiet frustration. Still, Emma adored her mother, who was her greatest inspiration. Sarah was warm, patient, and fiercely determined to give her children a better life. She had a way of seeing beauty in the smallest things: a wildflower blooming by the roadside, a perfectly brewed cup of coffee, a kind smile from a stranger. Sarah taught Emma that kindness was a strength, not a weakness, and that sometimes the most powerful stories were hidden beneath the surface of ordinary lives. When Sarah passed away suddenly from a heart attack just before Emma's 16th birthday, it was as if the ground beneath her feet had crumbled. The loss left a wound that never fully healed. Suddenly, Emma was thrust into a world of responsibilities beyond her years, helping care for her younger brother Jake while trying to keep their father from shutting down emotionally. School became both a refuge and a challenge. Emma threw herself into her studies, fueled by a desperate need to escape the small town that felt like it was closing in on her. Books and writing became her sanctuary, places where she could explore worlds beyond her own and make sense of her swirling emotions. Her passion for technology and innovation blossomed during these years, sparked by an after-school coding club and a worn-out laptop she'd begged her father to buy. She spent countless nights teaching herself programming languages, dreaming of a future where she could tell stories about the people changing the world with technology. Yet, even as she reached for her dreams, Emma carried the weight of her past like a shadow. Her father's distance sometimes felt like rejection, and the ache left by her mother's absence was a constant reminder of what she had lost. Relationships outside her family were difficult, too. Emma was fiercely independent, sometimes to a fault, and struggled to let others in. Friendships came and went, often fractured by her reluctance to be vulnerable. Still, there were a few who stayed, like Mia Thompson, her best friend since middle school. Mia was the opposite of Emma in many ways, outgoing, spontaneous, and endlessly optimistic. But their bond was unbreakable. Mia grounded Emma when her world felt chaotic, reminding her that she didn't have to carry her burdens alone. When Emma moved to San Francisco for college, it felt like a fresh start. The city was a sprawling landscape of possibility and challenge, far removed from the quiet streets of her hometown. College was a whirlwind of new ideas, new people, and new experiences. Emma majored in journalism, driven by a desire to tell stories that mattered and to hold the powerful accountable. She worked tirelessly, juggling internships, late-night writing sessions, and part-time jobs to make ends meet. It was in those years that Emma first encountered the dazzling world of Silicon Valley, the birthplace of the tech giants and the dream factories. She attended conferences, networked with engineers and entrepreneurs, and began to carve out a niche as a reporter with a sharp eye for innovation. But the road was never smooth. Emma faced setbacks, deadlines missed, stories rejected, harsh criticism. The pressure to succeed was intense, and the competition brutal. Yet, she persisted, fueled by the memory of her mother's words and the vision of a better future. Her big break came when she landed a job at TechSphere, a leading digital magazine known for breaking exclusive stories about emerging technologies. Emma's writing quickly gained attention for its clarity, depth, and ability to humanize the often cold, technical world of gadgets and algorithms. She developed a reputation for digging beneath the surface, finding the people behind the products, and exposing the real impact of technology on everyday lives. But success brought its own challenges. Emma found herself navigating a world filled with politics, corporate agendas, and intense rivalries. The story that ultimately changed everything for her wasn't one of triumph but of controversy. She had written a piece that questioned the ethics of a major tech company's data practices. The article went viral but also enraged powerful figures who launched a campaign to discredit her. The backlash was swift and brutal. Emma was accused of bias, misinformation, and unprofessionalism. She was suspended from her job pending investigation and faced public criticism on social media. The experience shook her to her core. The world she had worked so hard to be part of suddenly felt hostile and unforgiving. The support she had counted on from colleagues and mentors evaporated, leaving her isolated and uncertain about her future. Emma's relationships, already fragile, strained under the weight of the crisis. Mia stood by her side, offering encouragement and a listening ear, but even their friendship was tested by the stress and fear. Her brother Jake, now a teenager, looked up to her but worried about her well-being. Through it all, Emma struggled with self-doubt. Was she really cut out for this career? Had she made a terrible mistake? Could she ever recover her reputation and her confidence? The answers weren't clear. Yet, beneath the turmoil, a spark of resilience remained. Emma remembered why she had chosen this path, to tell stories that mattered, to shine a light on truth, and to find meaning in a complicated world. The unexpected invitation from Elon Musk arrived at this fragile moment, offering a chance to reclaim her voice and rebuild her life. But it also forced her to confront deeper questions. What did kindness really mean in a world driven by power and ambition? Could someone like Elon Musk, with his larger-than-life persona, holds secrets of compassion hidden beneath the headlines? Emma knew this story would challenge her not just as a journalist, but as a person. It would push her to look beyond appearances and discover truths that were messy, contradictory, and profoundly human. And in that challenge lay the possibility of healing, not just for Musk's story, but for her own. Emma Collins had learned early on that no one navigates life alone, even when the weight of the world feels like it's pressing down on your shoulders. Throughout her journey, from her small hometown to the sprawling tech hubs of San Francisco, relationships had been her anchor, her lifeline, and sometimes, her greatest source of conflict. Her best friend Mia Thompson was the first and most constant presence in her life outside her immediate family. Mia was the kind of person who could light up a room with her laughter, a stark contrast to Emma's more reserved and introspective nature. They had met in middle school, bonding over their shared love of books and their outsider status among more popular kids. Over the years, their friendship deepened into something unshakable, even as their paths diverged. Mia was impulsive, optimistic, and fiercely loyal, always pushing Emma to see the brighter side of things. Whenever Emma doubted herself or felt overwhelmed, Mia's words were a reminder that she wasn't alone. "You've got this, Em," Mia would say, grabbing her hand with a grip full of confidence. "No matter how tough it gets, you'll figure it out." Their friendship was a safe space where Emma could be vulnerable, where tears and laughter lived side by side. But even the strongest friendships faced tests, and Emma's recent career troubles had put pressure on their bond. Mia struggled to balance being supportive with watching Emma withdraw into herself, and sometimes frustration bubbled beneath her sunny exterior. Then there was Jake, Emma's younger brother by 5 years. Jake was a mix of boyish mischief and quiet sensitivity, the kind of kid who loved basketball but also stayed up late reading about space exploration. The loss of their mother had brought them closer, but also complicated their relationship. Emma had taken on a parental role at times, trying to shield Jake from the harsh realities of their world while juggling her own pain. Jake admired Emma fiercely, seeing her as a hero even in her moments of doubt. His texts and calls were a constant thread of encouragement. "You're gonna kill it, Emma. I know it." But he also worried about her. He hated seeing her stressed, exhausted, and questioning her worth. Their late-night conversations revealed a tender honesty rarely seen by others. Emma's father, Tom Collins, was perhaps the most difficult relationship to navigate. A man raised in a generation where feelings were often hidden behind a stoic demeanor, Tom expressed his love in ways that were sometimes frustratingly indirect. After Sarah's death, he had retreated into himself, struggling to communicate with his children. Emma and Tom often clashed over what felt like small things but were really manifestations of deeper pain. Their conversations could turn tense, filled with unspoken grief and expectations neither wanted to voice. Despite the distance, Emma knew her father loved her. He showed it in the way he fixed her broken laptop when no one else would, or the quiet pride in his eyes when she spoke about her work. But bridging the emotional gap between them was a constant challenge. At TechSphere, Emma's professional relationships had been equally complex. Mark Davidson, her editor, was a mentor and sometimes a thorn in her side. Mark saw potential in Emma early on, pushing her to take risks and develop a distinctive voice. Yet, when the controversy around her last article erupted, Mark's support wavered. The tension between loyalty to Emma and pressure from the magazine's higher-ups created a complicated dynamic. Mark's encouragement was tempered by caution, leaving Emma unsure where she truly stood. There was also a network of colleagues, some friends, some rivals, whose interactions reflected the cutthroat nature of the tech journalism world. Emma had learned to be guarded, to pick her allies carefully. Behind the scenes, there were whispered conversations, alliances formed and broken, and a constant undercurrent of competition that made trust a rare commodity. Among these relationships, a few individuals stood out. There was Daniel Park, a fellow journalist who shared Emma's passion for uncovering truth but had a more cynical view of the industry. Their professional debates were fierce but respectful, often pushing Emma to sharpen her thinking. Then there was Olivia Reed, a public relations specialist for one of the tech companies Emma covered. Their interactions were often fraught, a dance of negotiation and guarded information, revealing the tension between media and corporate interests. Outside of work and family, Emma had cultivated a small circle of friends who were not directly connected to her career but provided balance. Yoga classes, weekend hikes, and late-night coffee chats with these friends offered a respite from the constant pressure. These relationships reminded Emma that her identity was more than just her job. But none of these connections prepared her fully for the challenge ahead, the invitation from Elon Musk and the opportunity to enter a world where power, innovation, and secrecy collided. The relationships she had built would be tested in new ways, forcing her to reconsider whom she could trust and what she truly valued. As Emma prepared to meet Musk, she found herself reflecting on these bonds. She reached out to Mia with a text, "Big day tomorrow. Wish me luck." Mia's quick reply, full of emojis and encouragement, brought a smile to Emma's face. She called Jake before heading out, hearing the excitement and pride in his voice. And though she hadn't spoken to her father much lately, she found herself hoping for a moment of connection when she returned. Emma knew that the path ahead would be rocky, filled with moments of hope and heartbreak. But the people who mattered, the friends who believed in her, the family she loved, were the steady pulse beneath her courage. With them, she felt a little less alone. And sometimes, that was enough to keep moving forward. The invitation to meet Elon Musk had ignited a flicker of hope in Emma Collins, but as the days passed, that spark quickly collided with harsh reality. The moment she stepped into Musk's world, she realized the story she had imagined was far more complicated and treacherous than she ever anticipated. It started with the build-up to the interview itself. Musk's team was meticulous, too meticulous, Emma thought, with every interaction carefully choreographed. She found herself shadowed by assistants and public relations personnel who guarded every word and move. The feeling of being watched was suffocating. At first, Emma tried to push through the tension by focusing on her job, taking detailed notes, asking questions, trying to capture the truth beneath the polished surface. But as the interview progressed, subtle signs of resistance began to surface. Musk was enigmatic, sometimes candid, other times evasive. His words danced around topics she wanted to explore in depth, the failures hidden behind the successes, the ethical dilemmas of his projects, the human cost of innovation. Emma could sense a barrier rising, walls built not just to protect a man but to guard a myth. The conflict deepened when Emma uncovered information from inside sources hinting at internal struggles within Musk's company, disagreements about the direction of the new project, concerns about the treatment of employees, and whispers of cover-ups. These revelations didn't come from official channels but from quiet conversations with engineers and staff who feared repercussions. Emma knew that publishing these details could make waves, but also risked alienating the very people she needed for her story. Back in San Francisco, the fallout from her previous article still loomed. Her former employer, TechSphere, had reopened the investigation into her work, stirring up old controversies. The editor who had once praised her now questioned her integrity. Social media users revived the harshest criticisms, attacking her credibility and motives. Emma found herself caught between two storms, one brewing inside Musk's empire, and the other in her own professional life. The pressure mounted as she juggled phone calls from Musk's PR team warning her to be cautious, emails from anonymous insiders urging her to expose the truth, and messages from friends and family urging her to be careful. Mia's texts shifted from encouragement to concern. "Emma, don't get swallowed up in this. Remember why you started." Jake's voice on the phone was steady but worried. "I just want you to be safe." Even her father reached out after weeks of silence. "Be careful, Em. Not everything is as it seems." The rising tension infiltrated every aspect of Emma's life. Sleep became elusive, replaced by restless nights filled with questions and doubts. She questioned her judgment, wondering if she was chasing a story that would hurt more than it would help. The emotional toll was heavy, moments of hope shattered by waves of despair. One night, after a particularly intense meeting with Musk's team, Emma sat alone in her apartment, staring at the glowing screen filled with confidential documents she had been entrusted with. The data suggested that Musk's project, while revolutionary, involved sacrifices, tight deadlines that pushed employees to the brink, corners cut in safety protocols, and decisions made in shadows to avoid bad press. Her fingers trembled as she contemplated the story she could write. Would revealing these truths expose the complexity of Musk's vision, or simply paint him as a villain? The next day brought an unexpected twist. Musk himself requested a private meeting outside the controlled environment of the launch site. Emma's heart raced as she arrived at a quiet cafe in Palo Alto, far from the corporate gloss and cameras. Musk was waiting, less guarded, more human in the soft morning light. "Emma," he said, eyes intense, "I know you've heard things. I won't deny there are mistakes and sacrifices. But every step we take is for a greater purpose." Their conversation was raw and revealing. Musk shared stories of personal failure and regret, moments when he had pushed too hard, hurt people he cared about, and faced the loneliness of leadership. Emma saw the cracks in the armor, the man behind the myth grappling with his own demons. Yet, even in his vulnerability, there was a fierce determination to keep moving forward. This encounter was a climax in itself. Emma felt torn between skepticism and empathy, between the need to expose truth and the desire to understand the man behind the headlines. But just as hope flickered, another challenge erupted. A rival journalist published a scathing article accusing Emma of bias, suggesting her close access to Musk compromised her objectivity. The piece went viral, igniting a firestorm of debate and threatening to undermine all her work. Friends reached out with concern, and even Musk's team grew wary. Emma felt isolated once again, caught in a web of suspicion and scrutiny. Yet, amidst the chaos, Emma found unexpected allies, engineers who admired her integrity, former colleagues who reminded her of her worth, and strangers moved by her courage. These moments of support rekindled her spirit. She realized that the story was not just about Musk or her own struggles, but about the complicated dance between power, truth, and kindness. Each obstacle, each conflict, shaped her understanding and strengthened her resolve. As the interview series progressed, Emma navigated a roller coaster of revelations and setbacks, moments of breakthrough followed by new barriers. She learned to balance skepticism with empathy, to question without condemning. Her writing evolved, capturing the messy, contradictory nature of human ambition and compassion. By the end of this chapter in her journey, Emma stood at a crossroads. The rising conflicts had pushed her to the edge, testing her limits and beliefs. But they also opened a door to deeper truths and a more nuanced story, one that challenged simple narratives and invited readers to see beyond the surface. Emma knew the path ahead would demand courage, resilience, and a willingness to face uncomfortable realities. But she was ready to meet the challenge, driven by the hope that her story could illuminate something meaningful in a world hungry for connection and understanding. Emma's journey into the heart of Elon Musk's world took an unexpected turn that would challenge everything she thought she knew. After weeks of navigating guarded interviews and behind-the-scenes tension, Musk extended an invitation for Emma to visit one of his most secretive projects, an off-the-grid research facility nestled deep in the Nevada desert. This wasn't just another staged photo op or controlled press event, it was a raw, unfiltered glimpse into the frontier of innovation where boundaries were pushed and risks soared. The drive from Las Vegas to the remote facility was long and winding, cutting through stark landscapes where the sun beat down mercilessly and silence stretched as far as the eye could see. Emma felt the weight of anticipation and unease settle over her. As the dusty gates opened, she was met by a small team of engineers who had been working tirelessly on a groundbreaking renewable energy initiative, a project Musk believed could change the future of the planet. The atmosphere was electric with urgency and hope, but beneath that buzz lay exhaustion and tension. Emma watched as the engineers debated fiercely over technical details, frustration occasionally flaring amid the camaraderie. The pressure to succeed was palpable, failure here could mean millions lost, years set back, and reputations shattered. Musk appeared briefly, his presence commanding yet surprisingly approachable. He spoke with passion about the vision driving the project, the desire to combat climate change, create sustainable energy solutions, and push humanity forward. But even in these moments of idealism, Emma sensed the heavy cost behind the dream. Long hours, strained relationships, and the sacrifice of personal lives were woven into every step of progress. One engineer confided in Emma about the challenges they faced: budget cuts, skepticism from investors, and the relentless pace that left little room for rest or error. "We're all chasing something bigger than ourselves," he said quietly, eyes tired but determined. "But it's hard not to wonder what we're leaving behind." As Emma immersed herself in the facility's rhythms, she began to see the complexity of Musk's empire in vivid detail. It was a world where brilliance and burnout existed side by side, where innovation collided with human frailty. The desert facility became a crucible, forging new insights about leadership, sacrifice, and the blurry line between vision and obsession. One evening, Emma found herself alone with Musk under the vast Nevada sky, stars glittering above like distant promises. They talked about failures, his early setbacks with rockets, public criticism, and personal losses. Musk's voice was quieter than usual, tinged with a rare vulnerability. "I've made mistakes, Emma. Hurt people. I'm not perfect. But I believe in pushing limits, even when it costs everything." That moment revealed layers of a man often misunderstood, a figure driven by relentless ambition yet haunted by the price it exacted. But just as Emma began to feel a fragile connection, the story took another twist. Reports emerged of a major setback at the facility, a critical system failure that threatened to derail the entire project. The news spread quickly, casting doubt on Musk's promises and fueling media skepticism. Emma was caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions: disappointment, empathy, and the drive to tell the truth. She saw the faces of the engineers grappling with the fallout, their hopes dashed but their resolve unbroken. Through long nights of interviews and investigations, Emma chronicled the aftermath, the lessons learned, the resilience displayed, and the difficult decisions ahead. The journey through this crisis was a test not only for Musk and his team but for Emma herself. She wrestled with how to balance the harsh realities with the underlying spirit of innovation and kindness she had glimpsed. The desert, with its harsh beauty and unforgiving conditions, became a powerful symbol of the story she was telling, a place where dreams were both born and broken, where hope and hardship intertwined. By the end of her time at the facility, Emma felt transformed. The experience deepened her understanding of what it meant to lead, to fail, and to keep striving against the odds. It also challenged her to reconsider the narrative she had been told about Musk and the world of tech billionaires. No longer was it a simple tale of hero or villain, it was a complex human drama full of contradictions and unexpected kindnesses. As Emma left the Nevada desert behind, she carried with her not just facts and quotes but a profound respect for the people risking everything to change the world. This journey was a turning point, not just in her reporting but in her own personal growth. The story she was crafting was no longer just about Elon Musk, it was about resilience, sacrifice, and the secret kindnesses hidden in the pursuit of greatness. Emma sat in the dim light of her apartment, the Nevada desert story fresh in her mind but the weight of what she had uncovered pressing down heavily on her chest. The emotional crescendo of her journey was swelling inside her, a complex mixture of admiration, disappointment, empathy, and profound sadness. The revelations about Musk's project failures and the personal toll on his team were more than just headlines. They were human stories of sacrifice, ambition, and sometimes, heartbreak. But the real shock came unexpectedly, when Emma received an anonymous message late one night. It was a video file, grainy and raw, showing a private moment between Musk and one of his closest employees. The video revealed Musk's softer side, his genuine concern for the people working tirelessly beside him, his apologies for the mistakes he had made, and a quiet hope that their sacrifices were not in vain. Watching that video, Emma's perspective shifted. Here was a man often cast as a cold, ruthless titan, revealing a vulnerability rarely seen by the public. She realized the story was not just about corporate triumphs or failures but about the messy, complicated humanity behind the headlines. Yet, This truth came wrapped in layers of conflict. Publishing the video could shatter Musk's carefully crafted image and risk her access to the inner circle. It could also expose the emotional costs to those involved. Emma wrestled with her conscience. The tension between revealing the whole story and protecting the people she had come to respect became a relentless inner battle. She reached out to Musk directly, asking for a candid conversation. To her surprise, he agreed. Their meeting was scheduled in a quiet, secluded office at SpaceX headquarters. Musk arrived looking tired, the lines on his face deeper than she had seen before. "I know you have questions," he said. "And I want you to hear the truth, from me." The conversation that followed was raw and unguarded. Musk spoke of his failures, his regrets, and the loneliness of leadership. He admitted to pushing too hard, sometimes at the expense of those around him. "I'm not proud of everything I've done," he confessed. "But I believe in the mission, and I'm trying to do better." Emma felt a swell of empathy, but also the responsibility to her readers and the truth. The climax of her story was unfolding not just in facts, but in emotions, complex, conflicting, and deeply human. The next challenge came swiftly. The rival journalist who had previously attacked Emma's credibility returned with a new piece, this time accusing her of bias for portraying Musk too sympathetically. The media storm erupted, with social media users divided and fierce debates breaking out. Emma's phone buzzed non-stop with messages, supportive, critical, and everything in between. Mia's voice on the other end of a late-night call was steady and grounding. "You're doing the right thing, Em. This story is bigger than anyone's opinion." Emma took solace in those words, even as the pressure mounted. Her writing became more introspective, weaving together the technical details with the emotional truth. She highlighted the imperfections and kindnesses, the failures and hopes, painting a portrait that was honest and nuanced. As the story neared completion, Emma reflected on her own transformation. The journey had changed her, not just as a journalist but as a person. She had confronted her own doubts and fears, learned to balance skepticism with compassion, and discovered strength in vulnerability. The final piece was published with a headline that captured the essence of the emotional climax: "Beyond the Myth, the Hidden Kindness Behind Elon Musk's Ambition." The response was overwhelming. Readers connected with the story's honesty and complexity, sparking conversations about leadership, sacrifice, and the human side of innovation. Emma received letters from people inspired to see their own struggles in a new light. In her heart, she knew the story was far from over. But for now, the emotional peak had been reached, a moment of truth that resonated beyond the page, touching lives and challenging assumptions. Emma closed her laptop, a quiet smile on her lips. This was more than a story, it was a shared experience of hope, struggle, and the secret kindness that can exist even in the most unlikely places. Emma sat quietly in her apartment, the city lights casting soft glows against the windowpane as she reflected on the incredible journey she had just completed. The story about Elon Musk, once a straightforward assignment, had grown into something far deeper, a personal voyage that challenged everything she thought she knew about ambition, kindness, and sacrifice. Writing the final words of her piece, Emma felt a wave of calm after months of turmoil. She had delved into the contradictions of a man often portrayed as a genius or a villain but was really both and neither, caught in the messy middle of humanity. The story wasn't about hero worship or condemnation, it was about understanding the complexities behind public personas. Emma thought back to the early days, when she first received Musk's invitation, and marveled at how far she'd come. There were moments of doubt, fear, and intense pressure, but there were also moments of profound insight and connection. Meeting Musk in the Nevada desert, witnessing the struggles of his team, and uncovering the hidden kindness in the midst of relentless drive had all reshaped her view of leadership and resilience. She remembered the video message, the one anonymous but real, showing Musk's softer side. That moment was a turning point, revealing that even those who seem untouchable carry burdens and vulnerabilities. Emma realized that kindness wasn't always loud or obvious, sometimes, it was found in quiet apologies, in efforts to protect others, and in the relentless push to make the world better despite the costs. Her relationships had also evolved. Mia remained a constant source of support, always reminding Emma to hold on to hope. Her brother Jake's pride had been a steady anchor, and even her father, with his guarded love, had begun to bridge the gap between them. These bonds gave Emma strength and perspective, grounding her as she navigated the storm. Professionally, the story had sparked a conversation far beyond her expectations. Readers connected with the nuanced portrait she had painted, one that acknowledged failure but celebrated resilience, exposed flaws but recognized humanity. The piece was shared widely, discussed in online forums and newsrooms alike. It sparked debates about ethics, leadership, and the true meaning of success. Emma received heartfelt messages from people who saw their own struggles reflected in the story, inspired to keep pushing forward despite adversity. The journey had changed her. She understood now that truth wasn't a simple line between black and white. It was a tapestry woven from conflicting threads, ambition and kindness, failure and hope, isolation and connection. Emma knew that her story was a reminder that behind every public figure, every headline, there was a human being grappling with their own fears and dreams. The story's conclusion carried a message she hoped would resonate with readers. Life was unpredictable and challenging, but love and kindness, often hidden beneath layers of complexity, could guide the way. Emma felt a sense of peace, knowing she had honored not just the facts but the emotional truth of the people involved. As she closed her laptop, a notification popped up, a message from Musk himself. "Thank you for telling the story honestly. It means more than you know." Emma smiled softly. In that simple line, she found closure and a new beginning. The secret kindness she had discovered was not just in Musk but in the connections forged through truth and empathy. The story was over, but its impact was just beginning. After the emotional resolution of her groundbreaking story, Emma believed she had reached a natural pause in her journey. Yet, as the saying goes, life loves to surprise you when you least expect it. No sooner had the dust settled on her publication than new challenges and unexpected alliances began to surface, pulling Emma deeper into the intricate web of Elon Musk's world and beyond. The immediate aftermath of her article's release was a whirlwind. Media outlets praised her balanced perspective, but skepticism lingered among some critics who insisted she had softened the narrative too much. Despite the mixed reviews, Emma's reputation as a thoughtful, courageous journalist was solidifying. Invitations came flooding in, from podcasts, panel discussions, and even university lectures, where she was asked to speak about her experiences uncovering the complexities of leadership, innovation, and human kindness in the high-stakes tech industry. But beyond the spotlight, Emma's professional life took an unexpected turn when she received a confidential email from a source inside one of Musk's lesser-known ventures, a secretive think tank focusing on artificial intelligence and sustainable urban development. The source hinted at internal disputes threatening to unravel key projects. Intrigued and cautious, Emma arranged a discreet meeting. The conversation introduced her to people deeply committed to shaping the future but caught in the crossfire of corporate politics, ethical dilemmas, and personal ambitions. The source, a software engineer named Caleb, painted a vivid picture of a team divided. On one side were idealists passionate about creating AI that could benefit humanity, while on the other were pragmatists pushing for rapid deployment to secure market dominance. Caleb's words struck a chord with Emma. Here was another story about the tension between vision and reality, hope and compromise. The stakes were high. Beyond profit, the outcomes could affect millions of lives. As Emma dug deeper, she discovered that these conflicts were compounded by outside pressures, regulatory scrutiny, activist groups demanding transparency, and competing companies eager to expose any flaws. This new world was a labyrinth of intrigue, where alliances shifted quickly and trust was a rare commodity. Emma realized that her previous experiences with Musk's public persona had only scratched the surface. The real story lay in the quieter battles waged behind closed doors, where personal values and business ambitions clashed in unpredictable ways. Meanwhile, Emma's own circle evolved. She found unexpected allies among fellow journalists, engineers, and even former critics who recognized the importance of nuanced reporting in a time of rapid technological change. A group of like-minded professionals began to form, a loosely connected network dedicated to ethical journalism and transparency in tech coverage. These alliances provided Emma with new perspectives and support, reminding her that she was not alone in her quest for truth and fairness. On a personal level, Emma's relationships deepened. Mia remained her rock, offering not only friendship but practical help navigating the complexities of the industry. Emma's brother Jake surprised her by showing genuine interest in her work, asking thoughtful questions and offering insights from his background in finance. Even her father softened, expressing quiet pride in the woman she had become. Yet, the emotional toll of these new challenges was undeniable. Emma grappled with balancing her professional responsibilities and personal well-being. The pressure to deliver accurate, impactful stories while maintaining integrity sometimes felt overwhelming. Sleepless nights became common, her mind racing with the weight of decisions that could affect careers, reputations, and even lives. In one particularly intense week, Emma faced a crisis when a major source withdrew cooperation after fearing corporate retaliation. The setback threatened to derail months of investigation. But instead of giving in to despair, Emma tapped into the network of allies she had built. Collaborative efforts, shared resources, and mutual trust helped her navigate the obstacles. Together, they found alternative leads and new angles, demonstrating the power of community in the face of adversity. Throughout these trials, Emma never lost sight of the lessons learned from her time with Musk. The delicate balance between ambition and kindness, the importance of transparency, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths. She understood that stories like these were never black and white. They were messy, complicated, and often deeply human. Emma stands at a new frontier. Her journey is far from over. The challenges ahead are daunting, but so are the possibilities. Unexpected alliances have expanded her world, offering fresh hope and strength. Emma feels ready to face whatever comes next, fueled by the belief that honesty, empathy, and perseverance can illuminate even the darkest corners of innovation and power. Emma's world was shifting faster than she could have imagined. The tangled threads of technology, ambition, and human emotion she'd been unraveling were beginning to form a new pattern, one that promised change but demanded sacrifice. The secret struggles inside Elon Musk's projects, the fragile alliances with sources like Caleb, and the growing network of ethical journalists were all converging into a turning point in her career and life. The catalyst came unexpectedly. One morning, Emma received an encrypted message from a whistleblower within Musk's AI division, warning of an imminent ethical breach that could have serious consequences. The message contained documents suggesting that some algorithms were being rushed into deployment without adequate safety testing, risking not only data privacy but potential harm to users. Emma knew the stakes were enormous. This wasn't just another tech controversy, it was a test of values for everyone involved. She immediately reached out to Caleb and a few trusted contacts to verify the information. The confirmation came quickly, but so did the pushback. The company was attempting to suppress the story, leveraging legal threats and internal pressure to silence dissenters. Emma faced the dilemma she had anticipated, whether to expose the truth at the risk of her career and safety, or to stay silent and protect herself. In late-night calls with Mia, Emma grappled with the weight of responsibility. "What if this ruins everything?" she asked. "What if I'm wrong?" Mia's voice was firm but compassionate. "You've never been one to back down from the truth, Em. This is your moment to shine, but also to be careful." The tension was palpable. Emma knew that moving forward meant confronting powerful interests and navigating a minefield of legal and ethical challenges. She began gathering evidence meticulously, interviewing former employees and experts in AI ethics, piecing together a comprehensive picture of the potential risks. The deeper she dug, the more she realized how high the stakes were, not just for Musk's company but for the broader tech industry and society at large. Meanwhile, the personal cost mounted. Emma's relationship with her father, once strained, improved slowly as he saw the integrity driving her work. Her brother Jake offered financial advice and emotional support, helping her manage the pressures of freelance journalism. Mia remained her steadfast friend, often reminding her to take breaks and find moments of joy amid the chaos. Despite these supports, Emma felt the isolation that comes with bearing heavy truths. The media frenzy around Musk intensified as rumors about the whistleblower leak spread. Social media buzzed with speculation, conspiracy theories, and polarized opinions. Emma was suddenly at the center of a storm she hadn't fully anticipated. On one hand, she was praised for bravery and dedication to transparency. On the other, she was attacked by trolls and some industry insiders who accused her of sensationalism and bias. The emotional roller coaster was exhausting, but Emma stayed grounded by returning to the core of her mission, telling honest stories that mattered. One pivotal moment came when Emma secured a rare, candid interview with Elon Musk himself. The conversation was intense and revealing. Musk acknowledged the pressures to accelerate innovation but defended the company's intentions, emphasizing a commitment to safety and ethical standards. "We're trying to change the world," he said. "Mistakes happen, but we learn and adapt. The future depends on boldness balanced with responsibility." Emma pushed for transparency and accountability, making clear that public trust depended on openness. The exchange was difficult but necessary, highlighting the complexity of leadership in a rapidly evolving field. As the investigation progressed, Emma collaborated closely with her network of allies, sharing information and strategies to withstand legal and corporate pushback. Together, they crafted a series of articles and reports designed to inform the public while protecting their sources and integrity. The unfolding story sparked wider discussions about the role of ethics in technology, the need for regulation, and the human impact of innovation. Emma found herself invited to speak at conferences and think tanks, where she advocated for responsible journalism and transparency in tech development. The experience deepened her sense of purpose and resilience. Reflecting on the journey so far, Emma recognized how far she had come, from a curious journalist chasing a headline to a trusted voice navigating the difficult intersections of truth, power, and humanity. The turning point was more than a moment, it was a transformation. She was no longer just an observer but an active participant shaping the dialogue around technology's future. Emma stands at a crossroads. The road ahead is uncertain, filled with challenges that test her courage and convictions. But she is ready. Armed with knowledge, alliances, and a steadfast commitment to integrity, Emma embraces the responsibility that comes with uncovering difficult truths. The turning point is here, and with it, a new chapter in her life and career begins, fueled by hope, determination, and the belief that even in the most complex stories, kindness and honesty can prevail. Emma felt the weight of the turning point settle over her like a thick fog, but beneath it was a clear sense of purpose that kept her moving forward. The whistleblower's revelations had opened a door into a world of corporate secrecy, ethical questions, and technological risks that demanded closer scrutiny. She knew the investigation had to deepen, not only to uncover the truth but to give voice to those caught in the crossfire. Emma's first step was to build trust within the tightly guarded circles of Musk's AI division. With Caleb's help, she reached out to former employees and insiders who had quietly expressed concerns but feared retaliation. Many agreed to speak off the record, revealing a pattern of hurried deployments, ignored safety warnings, and pressure to prioritize speed over caution. These conversations were often fraught with emotion. Engineers shared stories of sleepless nights, moral dilemmas, and the crushing feeling of watching their work pushed beyond safe limits. Emma listened intently, documenting every detail with care and compassion. At the same time, she pursued expert opinions to contextualize these insider accounts. She contacted AI ethicists, cybersecurity specialists, and legal analysts to understand the broader implications. Their insights painted a sobering picture. The unchecked rush toward AI integration could expose users to unprecedented risks, from privacy violations to autonomous systems making unregulated decisions. Emma's articles began to reflect this complexity, weaving technical analysis with human stories that illustrated the stakes. Her writing emphasized the urgent need for transparency, oversight, and ethical standards that kept people, not just profits, at the center. As the investigation intensified, Emma encountered pushback from corporate legal teams. She received cease and desist letters, warnings about confidential information, and veiled threats aimed at discouraging further reporting. The pressure was real, but Emma refused to be intimidated. Instead, she strengthened her alliances, consulting with media lawyers and collaborating with non-profit organizations dedicated to protecting whistleblowers and journalists. This support network became crucial, providing resources and strategies that helped her navigate the legal minefield. Meanwhile, Musk remained an enigmatic figure. Though she had previously interviewed him, Emma sensed that much of the truth remained hidden behind carefully crafted statements. Determined to probe deeper, she sought a follow-up interview. After persistent requests and leveraging her growing influence, Musk agreed to a more candid discussion. In the private meeting, Musk acknowledged the challenges and mistakes, but framed them as part of a necessary process to push humanity forward. "Innovation is messy," he said. "We can't afford to be paralyzed by fear. But we're committed to learning and evolving." Emma pressed him on the specific allegations of rushed AI deployment and the safety concerns raised by his team. Musk responded with a mixture of defensiveness and vulnerability, admitting that the pace had at times been too aggressive but insisting that the company's intentions were ultimately for the greater good. The conversation underscored the tension between visionary leadership and accountability. A theme that would resonate throughout Emma's reporting. Outside the corporate walls, public interest grew. Emma's series of articles sparked debates on social media, news programs, and legislative halls. Advocates for tech regulation gained momentum, calling for clearer guidelines and more rigorous testing before AI technologies hit the market. Some of Musk's supporters pushed back, arguing that innovation required freedom and flexibility. The polarized landscape highlighted the complexity of balancing progress with caution. For Emma, the emotional toll was significant. She struggled with moments of self-doubt and fatigue, questioning whether her efforts could make a meaningful difference amid such entrenched power structures. Yet, each story she published was met with messages from readers expressing gratitude and renewed awareness. The personal connection to her work sustained her, reminding her that journalism was not just about exposing problems but inspiring change. Emma's support system proved vital. Mia continued to be a source of unwavering encouragement, reminding her to take care of herself even when the stakes felt overwhelming. Jake offered practical advice on managing stress and finances, helping Emma find balance. Their presence grounded her in moments of chaos. Emma prepares for the next phase of the investigation, one that will delve into the broader societal impacts of AI and the moral responsibilities of those who create it. She knows the path ahead is uncertain and fraught with challenges, but also rich with possibility. Emma's journey is no longer just about uncovering facts, it's about shaping a future where technology serves humanity with kindness, transparency, and respect. Emma's investigation had grown beyond the confines of newsroom deadlines and whispered meetings. It was becoming a public reckoning, an intense moment where the implications of unchecked technological ambition collided head-on with society's need for safety, ethics, and transparency. The momentum was palpable, but so was the resistance. The series of articles Emma had meticulously crafted stirred a wave of reactions across the nation. News outlets picked up the story, some amplifying the warnings about rushed AI deployments and the potential fallout from a lack of oversight. Industry conferences featured heated debates, with advocates for regulation facing off against defenders of innovation who feared that too many restrictions would stifle progress. Social media exploded with hashtags both supporting Emma's findings and attacking her credibility. Emma was no stranger to scrutiny, but the scale and intensity of this backlash were unlike anything she'd experienced before. Trolls flooded her inbox with vitriol, conspiracy theories gained traction, and powerful entities questioned her motives and sources. At times, it felt like a battle for her own identity and purpose. Yet through it all, Emma remained grounded by the steady support of her closest allies. Mia continued to be her confidant and protector, often shielding Emma from the most toxic attacks and reminding her to focus on the truth. Jake's financial guidance helped her navigate the sudden influx of speaking engagements and freelance opportunities that came with the story's rising profile. The ethical journalism network Emma had helped build mobilized quickly, issuing statements of solidarity and practical support. As the public conversation deepened, Emma's role evolved. She was no longer just a reporter, she became a trusted voice and a symbol of integrity in a polarized media landscape. Invitations poured in to appear on television panels, radio shows, and university forums where she explained the nuances of AI ethics, the dangers of unregulated innovation, and the human stories behind technological breakthroughs. Each appearance tested her ability to communicate complex issues clearly and compassionately. One particularly significant moment came when Emma was invited to testify before a congressional committee investigating AI oversight. The hearing was tense, with lawmakers probing the balance between fostering innovation and protecting citizens. Emma's testimony was heartfelt and informed, drawing on her first-hand experiences and the voices of those she'd interviewed. She called for transparency, ethical standards, and the establishment of independent oversight bodies empowered to hold companies accountable. The testimony was widely covered in the media, sparking new legislative proposals and renewed public attention. Meanwhile, the corporate response from Musk's camp remained calculated. Official statements emphasized ongoing commitment to safety and ethical practices while subtly questioning the validity of whistleblower claims. Behind the scenes, legal teams continued to exert pressure on journalists and sources, aiming to control the narrative. Emma understood that this struggle was far from over. Amid the public battles, she found moments of unexpected kindness and solidarity. A former engineer who had initially feared retaliation reached out to thank her for giving voice to their concerns. Activists working on digital rights and privacy issues invited Emma to collaborate on awareness campaigns and educational programs. These connections reinforced her belief in the power of collective action and the importance of humanizing technology debates. On a personal level, the intensity of public life strained Emma's relationships at times. She missed simple pleasures, quiet dinners with Mia, long conversations with Jake, even the comfort of solitude. But she also discovered reservoirs of resilience she hadn't known she possessed. Each challenge, each criticism, became fuel for her determination to tell the full story and advocate for a future where technology served humanity responsibly. Reflecting on this phase of her journey, Emma recognized the profound shift in her identity. She had transformed from a curious journalist into a catalyst for change, navigating the complex interplay of truth, power, and hope. The public reckoning was messy and uncertain, but it was necessary, a collective awakening to the realities of innovation in the modern age. Emma prepares for the next stage, confronting the long-term consequences of technological progress and exploring the role of empathy and kindness in shaping ethical leadership. The road ahead remains challenging, but Emma embraces it with the conviction that meaningful change begins with honest stories and courageous voices. Emma had spent months chasing facts, analyzing data, and unpacking the technicalities of AI development, corporate strategy, and ethical dilemmas. But as the public reckoning unfolded, she realized there was a crucial part of the story she hadn't fully explored, the human side of innovation. Behind the headlines, boardrooms, and code were people, engineers, designers, managers, and workers, whose hopes, fears, and values shaped the technology that was transforming the world. Determined to bring this dimension to light, Emma set out to tell the stories of those individuals, showing how innovation was not just about products or profits, but about the human experience. Her first subject was Caleb, the software engineer who had initially reached out to her with warnings about rushed AI deployment. Emma arranged a series of in-depth interviews, uncovering Caleb's journey from an idealistic college student fascinated by technology's potential to a conflicted professional struggling with ethical compromises at work. Caleb described the passion that had driven him, his belief that AI could solve pressing problems like climate change and healthcare disparities. But he also spoke candidly about the growing pressures to meet deadlines, the sidelining of safety concerns, and the loneliness of feeling unheard in a corporate environment focused on results above all else. Emma listened closely, capturing Caleb's emotions, the frustration, hope, and quiet determination. She knew that these stories could connect readers to the complex realities behind innovation, making abstract debates tangible and personal. Next, Emma turned to Mira, a project manager responsible for coordinating teams developing sustainable urban solutions. Mira's perspective added another layer to the narrative. She talked about the challenge of balancing competing priorities, investor demands, technical feasibility, community impact, and ethical considerations. Mira described the moments of doubt and inspiration that punctuated her work, the joy of seeing a prototype come to life, the heartbreak of delays caused by unforeseen obstacles, and the constant negotiation between idealism and pragmatism. Emma's portrayal of Mira highlighted the emotional labor involved in innovation, the human costs often hidden behind glossy product launches and press releases. Emma also sought voices from outside the corporate bubble. She interviewed community leaders affected by new technologies, activists raising awareness about privacy and equity, and academics studying the societal impact of AI. Their insights broadened the scope, revealing how innovation rippled through everyday lives, reshaping opportunities and challenges in unpredictable ways. Throughout this process, Emma's writing style evolved. She infused her narratives with vivid descriptions of settings, from bustling tech campuses to quiet neighborhood meetings, using sensory details to create immersive experiences. She conveyed the characters' emotions through their words, actions, and interactions, allowing readers to feel the tension, hope, and complexity firsthand. The chapter she published on "The Human Side of Innovation" resonated deeply with audiences. Comments poured in from readers who appreciated the nuanced portrayal and the emphasis on empathy. Some shared their own stories of working in tech or being impacted by new technologies, creating a vibrant conversation around the human dimension of progress. Emma's work also influenced conversations among policymakers and industry leaders, encouraging more inclusive and thoughtful approaches to innovation. On a personal level, this phase was transformative for Emma. Engaging with diverse voices and perspectives enriched her understanding of the challenges and opportunities ahead. It reminded her that even in a high-pressure, competitive environment, kindness, empathy, and respect were vital. Emma found renewed energy and motivation, seeing her role not only as a watchdog but as a storyteller bridging the gap between technology and humanity. Yet, the journey was not without difficulties. Some corporate insiders remained wary, limiting access and cooperation. Emma faced moments of self-doubt, wondering if the stories she told could truly influence such a vast and complex system. But each connection, each shared experience, reaffirmed the importance of her work. Emma stands at a crossroads between the technical and the human, the strategic and the emotional. She understands that innovation is a multifaceted journey, one that requires not only intelligence and ambition but compassion and courage. With this insight, Emma prepares to explore the next chapter in her story, how acts of kindness and empathy within the tech world can spark change and inspire a better future. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? In the high-stakes world of technology, where competition is fierce and the pressure to innovate relentless, acts of kindness often go unnoticed. Yet Emma was beginning to see that these moments of humanity could be the secret threads weaving through the complex tapestry of innovation. After months of chasing the hard facts, probing ethical concerns, and unraveling corporate conflicts, she set out to explore a different side of the story, one where empathy and compassion quietly shaped outcomes and built unexpected alliances. Her journey began with a chance meeting during a tech conference in San Francisco. Emma was speaking on a panel about AI ethics when she noticed a small gesture that would linger in her mind. Elon Musk, despite his reputation for intensity and controversy, took time to thank a young engineer who had asked a tough question. The gratitude was genuine, the encouragement personal. It was a brief moment, but for Emma, it challenged the public's often one-dimensional perception of Musk. Intrigued, Emma dug deeper, reaching out to employees and associates willing to share their experiences. She heard stories of Musk's late-night emails offering personal support to team members facing burnout, unexpected mentorship sessions with junior engineers, and private donations to charitable causes inspired by individual conversations. These anecdotes revealed a man not just driven by vision and ambition, but also moved by a quiet sense of responsibility to those around him. One former employee recounted a difficult period when the company faced a major setback. Musk had called the team together and acknowledged their exhaustion and frustration. Rather than pushing harder, he asked how he could help them recharge and find meaning again. That empathy, the employee said, rekindled their commitment and inspired renewed creativity. Emma also explored how acts of kindness extended beyond Musk's immediate circle. She interviewed community outreach coordinators who described partnerships between the tech giant and local organizations aimed at improving education, supporting underrepresented groups, and fostering STEM opportunities for youth. These programs often operated away from the spotlight but made tangible differences in people's lives. The contrast between these gestures and the public controversies surrounding the company was striking. Emma realized that kindness in this world was not about grand declarations but quiet, consistent efforts that built trust and resilience. As she collected these stories, Emma noticed a pattern. Kindness was often a strategic choice as well as a moral one. In a competitive environment, showing empathy could strengthen teams, improve morale, and ultimately drive innovation. Leaders who embraced humanity alongside technology cultivated cultures where creativity thrived. Emma's writing reflected this nuanced understanding. She painted vivid portraits of individuals balancing the demands of fast-paced innovation with the need for compassion. She showed how small acts, a listening ear, a supportive message, an unexpected favor, could ripple outward, shaping the fabric of an organization and influencing outcomes in profound ways. The chapter she published on acts of kindness within Musk's company sparked conversations across the tech community. Readers and industry insiders alike shared their own stories of empathy and leadership, creating a wave of reflection on what it meant to be human in a world increasingly defined by machines. Emma herself felt a renewed sense of hope. Witnessing kindness in unexpected places reminded her that progress need not come at the expense of humanity. It also strengthened her belief that transparency and ethical responsibility could coexist with empathy and vision. Of course, the path was still challenging. Emma faced skepticism from some quarters, with critics dismissing kindness as a distraction from hard truths or a PR tactic. But she remained committed to telling a balanced story that embraced complexity rather than reducing people to caricatures. On a personal level, these explorations influenced Emma's own approach to her work and relationships. She made a conscious effort to practice empathy in her interactions, to listen more deeply, and to recognize the humanity behind every story. This shift helped her navigate the emotional demands of investigative journalism with greater resilience and grace. Emma reflects on the power of kindness as a catalyst for change in the tech world. She understands that while innovation drives progress, it is the human connections, the acts of empathy, support, and respect, that sustain it. With this insight, she prepares to explore the next phase of her journey, uncovering the hidden challenges that threaten to undermine kindness and integrity in innovation, and the courageous individuals working to protect them. Emma's journey into the heart of innovation's human side had uncovered moments of kindness that surprised her, but it also revealed persistent challenges threatening to undermine that very empathy. The tech world was a battlefield of competing interests, profits, power, and pace often clashed with the ideals of kindness and integrity. Emma realized that understanding these obstacles was critical to grasping the full picture of innovation today. She began by examining the intense pressure under which leaders and teams operated. The race to be first, to dominate markets, and to deliver cutting-edge breakthroughs often bred a culture of relentless urgency. In such environments, kindness was sometimes viewed as a liability, an indulgence that slowed progress. Interviews with current and former employees revealed stories of burnout, ethical compromises, and moral injury. Many described how the fear of being seen as weak or unproductive stifled openness and vulnerability. This culture of hyper-competition created a paradox. While leaders like Musk might value empathy privately, the organizational dynamic sometimes pushed people towards self-preservation rather than collaboration. Emma also investigated the role of external pressures. Investors, shareholders, and media scrutiny often demanded quick results, amplifying stress and narrowing the focus to short-term gains. The consequences were visible in decisions that prioritized market share over safety or innovation over ethics. Emma encountered whistleblowers who risked their careers to raise alarms about rushed product launches, data privacy violations, and exclusionary practices. Their stories underscored how the absence of protective mechanisms and transparent oversight left kindness and integrity vulnerable. Another barrier Emma explored was the complex nature of accountability in sprawling organizations. When failures or ethical breaches occurred, responsibility was often diffused among layers of management and teams, making it difficult to pinpoint where kindness or integrity broke down. This diffusion of responsibility complicated efforts to foster a culture grounded in ethical behavior. Emma's research led her to profiles of individuals who confronted these challenges head-on. She met ethics officers, internal advocates, and thoughtful leaders who championed transparency, employee well-being, and social responsibility, even when it put them at odds with corporate priorities. Their courage illuminated paths forward, demonstrating that kindness and integrity could survive and even thrive amid adversity. Emma's writing during this phase took on a tone of both realism and cautious optimism. She did not shy away from exposing systemic issues but balanced critique with stories of resilience and determination. Her articles highlighted the need for structural changes, stronger protections for whistleblowers, clearer ethical frameworks, and leadership models that integrated empathy as a core value. Public reaction was mixed but engaged. Some readers expressed frustration at the persistent barriers, while others found inspiration in the stories of advocates pushing for change. Industry insiders began discussing new initiatives focused on mental health, ethical AI development, and inclusive leadership. Emma found herself at the center of a growing conversation about what it truly meant to innovate responsibly. On a personal note, confronting these challenges tested Emma's own resilience. She grappled with moments of cynicism and fatigue, questioning whether kindness could endure in such a ruthless environment. But each story of courage and compassion she uncovered rekindled her commitment to the journey. Support from Mia, Jake, and her network of fellow journalists provided strength and perspective. Emma stands at a pivotal moment. The challenges to kindness and integrity in innovation are formidable, but so are the efforts to overcome them. Armed with insight, empathy, and determination, Emma prepares to dive deeper into the stories of those who embody the possibility of a kinder, more ethical future in technology, one act of courage at a time. Emma had seen the struggles, the pressures, and the barriers that threaten kindness and integrity within the tech world, but she also uncovered powerful stories of courage, individuals who dared to act against the grain, challenging norms and pushing for a better future. These acts of bravery, sometimes quiet and sometimes bold, gave her hope that change was possible even in the most competitive environments. Her investigation into these stories took her across the country, from Silicon Valley to smaller cities where local innovators were making waves. She met Samantha, an AI ethicist who had resigned from a major company after discovering serious flaws in a project that could compromise user privacy. Instead of remaining silent, Samantha chose to speak out publicly, despite the risk to her career. Emma recorded her story in detail, the fear, the isolation, and the resolve that drove Samantha to become an advocate for stronger regulations and transparent development. Samantha's courage sparked dialogue in the industry, inspiring others to reflect on their own roles in shaping ethical technology. Emma also encountered Marcus, a mid-level engineer who had quietly implemented changes in his team to improve work-life balance and encourage open discussions about mental health. Marcus's efforts weren't grand gestures but incremental shifts that made a real difference in the day-to-day lives of his colleagues. His story illustrated how leadership could emerge from any level and how small acts could ripple outward, influencing culture over time. Throughout her research, Emma documented instances where whistleblowers, advocates, and compassionate leaders faced backlash yet persevered. She portrayed the personal costs, job loss, social ostracism, and emotional tolls, but also the rewards, renewed purpose, community support, and the knowledge that their actions could spark broader transformation. Emma's writing captured the tension and hope inherent in these acts of courage. She described scenes vividly: boardroom confrontations, late-night strategy meetings, moments of private doubt and public triumph. She conveyed the emotions driving these individuals: fear, determination, frustration, and a profound sense of responsibility. The chapter Emma published resonated widely, inspiring readers across professions to consider how they might contribute to positive change in their own spheres. Responses ranged from heartfelt letters to calls for greater support systems for ethical advocacy within companies. Industry forums invited Emma to speak on fostering courageous leadership, further amplifying the conversation. On a personal level, engaging with these stories strengthened Emma's belief in the power of individual agency. She saw that while systemic change was necessary, it often began with one person's decision to act with integrity and compassion. This realization deepened her commitment to telling stories that honored these acts and encouraged others to follow suit. Yet Emma also acknowledged the complexity of change, how progress could be slow, nonlinear, and fraught with setbacks. She balanced optimism with realism, understanding that courage alone was not a cure-all but an essential ingredient in a broader movement toward ethical innovation. Emma reflects on the collective strength of these acts of courage and prepares to explore how such individual efforts could influence institutional transformation, weaving kindness and integrity into the very fabric of technological progress. Emma's exploration of individual acts of courage had illuminated a critical truth: lasting change required more than isolated bravery, it demanded institutional transformation. She realized that to embed kindness and integrity deeply into the technology sector, entire organizations needed to shift their cultures, policies, and priorities. This chapter of her investigation took her inside companies, boardrooms, and policy discussions where the seeds of such transformation were being sown. Her first visit was to a mid-sized tech firm in Seattle that had recently overhauled its leadership structure to prioritize ethical decision-making and employee well-being. Emma sat down with CEO Laura Henderson, who explained the challenges and opportunities of redefining success beyond quarterly profits. Laura spoke candidly about the resistance they faced from shareholders focused on immediate returns but shared inspiring stories of how empowering employees to voice concerns and prioritize ethical outcomes had led to more sustainable innovation and a happier workforce. Emma also observed team meetings where transparency was a core value. Employees openly discussed project risks, including potential social impacts, and brainstormed solutions collaboratively. This environment fostered a culture of trust and accountability, where kindness was not a weakness but a strength. Next, Emma attended a government symposium on AI regulation where policymakers, industry leaders, and ethicists debated frameworks designed to safeguard public interest without stifling innovation. Here, she witnessed how institutional transformation extended beyond companies to the legal and societal level. Speakers emphasized the importance of clear guidelines, independent oversight bodies, and inclusive stakeholder engagement to ensure that technology development aligned with ethical standards and social good. Emma's interviews with regulatory experts highlighted the delicate balance required. Too much bureaucracy risked slowing progress, too little oversight allowed harmful practices to flourish. The ideal lay in fostering collaboration between public and private sectors, grounded in shared values of transparency, fairness, and respect. The stories of change within academia added another dimension. Universities were revising curricula to integrate ethics deeply into engineering and computer science programs, preparing the next generation of innovators to consider the human impact of their work from the start. Emma met professors pioneering interdisciplinary research, blending technology with philosophy, sociology, and environmental studies. Throughout these explorations, Emma remained mindful of the barriers that persisted: corporate inertia, competing interests, and cultural norms that equated toughness with leadership. But she was encouraged by emerging narratives that challenged these assumptions and embraced vulnerability, empathy, and collaboration as pillars of effective innovation. Emma's writing conveyed the complexity and hopefulness of institutional transformation. She described detailed scenes, leadership retreats focused on values, regulatory hearings with passionate testimonies, classrooms where students debated ethical dilemmas. Her prose highlighted the human stories behind policy papers and corporate memos, reminding readers that institutions were made of people striving to do better. Public response to this chapter was optimistic but measured. Readers appreciated the deeper dive into systemic change and engaged in discussions about how they could support or advocate for these shifts in their own workplaces and communities. Industry leaders began sharing best practices and forming alliances to promote ethical frameworks collectively. On a personal level, Emma found inspiration in the collective efforts she documented. These institutional transformations, though gradual, represented a hopeful trajectory for technology's future, one where kindness and integrity were not exceptions but norms. Emma stands poised to examine how this evolving landscape intersects with public perception and societal trust. She understands that for transformation to endure, it must resonate beyond boardrooms and policy papers, reaching the hearts and minds of everyday people whose lives technology touches. Emma's deep dive into the institutional shifts toward kindness and integrity had uncovered promising changes within companies and regulatory bodies. Yet she knew that for these transformations to take root and flourish, they needed to resonate with the public, whose trust in technology had been shaken by scandals, misinformation, and fears about the future. Public perception and societal trust, she realized, were the final frontier in the journey toward ethical innovation. Emma began her research by attending community forums and tech expos where everyday people voiced their hopes and anxieties about new technologies. She listened carefully as participants shared stories of excitement about medical breakthroughs alongside concerns about privacy violations and job displacement. These conversations underscored the nuanced, often conflicted relationship many had with technology. The public's trust was fragile, built on a mix of personal experience, media narratives, and cultural attitudes. To understand this complexity, Emma interviewed communication experts and social psychologists specializing in technology adoption. They explained how transparency, clear messaging, and genuine engagement were critical to building trust. When companies openly acknowledged risks and involved communities in decision-making, people felt respected rather than exploited. Conversely, secrecy, hype, and dismissiveness bred suspicion and resistance. Emma also examined the role of media in shaping public perception. She met journalists grappling with the challenge of reporting on complex technologies without sensationalism or oversimplification. Emma herself reflected on her responsibility to balance critical scrutiny with storytelling that humanized the innovators and the affected communities. She sought to build bridges between technical realities and public understanding. One of Emma's most revealing interviews was with a mother from Detroit whose child benefited from an AI-driven educational tool. She described how initial skepticism gave way to appreciation when company representatives engaged honestly with parents, addressed concerns, and adapted the program based on feedback. This story illustrated the power of dialogue and responsiveness in cultivating trust. Emma also explored social media's double-edged influence. Platforms could amplify misinformation and fear but also foster communities of support and activism. She documented how grassroots movements advocated for ethical technology, holding companies accountable and demanding transparency. These citizen-led efforts demonstrated that trust was not a one-way street but a dynamic relationship requiring ongoing negotiation. Throughout her writing, Emma captured the emotional texture of public trust, the hope, skepticism, and sometimes frustration. She described vivid scenes of town halls filled with curious, concerned citizens, classrooms where students debated technology's role in society, and online forums where activists mobilized. Her prose conveyed the human stakes behind abstract concepts. The chapter Emma published sparked widespread engagement. Readers shared their own experiences of trusting or questioning technology, highlighting the diverse perspectives shaped by age, background, and geography. Industry leaders and policymakers took note, initiating campaigns to improve transparency and community involvement. Emma found this phase both challenging and rewarding. It demanded humility and openness, recognizing that technology's future depended not only on innovators but on those who lived with its consequences. She deepened her commitment to amplifying voices often overlooked in tech narratives, ensuring that trust was built on inclusivity as well as integrity. Emma prepares to explore the future horizon, how emerging technologies might redefine kindness, integrity, and trust in ways yet unimagined. She understands that the story of innovation is ongoing, shaped by the choices and values of all who participate in it. Emma stood on the brink of what felt like a new era in her investigation. A future where technology and humanity could intertwine in unprecedented ways. After exploring the challenges, acts of courage, institutional changes, and the critical role of public trust, she now sought to imagine what kindness and integrity might look like in the coming decades of innovation. This chapter was a synthesis of all she'd learned and a hopeful vision for the road ahead. Emma began by examining emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and quantum computing. These fields promise transformative possibilities, from curing diseases to reshaping communication and solving climate crises, but also posed profound ethical questions. How could kindness be coded into algorithms? How could integrity be ensured when decisions were made at speeds and scales beyond human comprehension? These questions underscored the importance of embedding ethical frameworks early in technological design, not as an afterthought but as a foundational principle. She interviewed visionary leaders and ethicists pioneering efforts to integrate compassion into technology. One such innovator was Dr. Ayesha Patel, who led a project developing AI systems designed to recognize emotional cues and respond with empathy. Dr. Patel emphasized that kindness in technology wasn't about replacing human connection but augmenting it, helping people feel seen and supported even in digital interactions. Emma described vivid scenarios where empathetic AI could assist elderly individuals living alone or help students struggling with anxiety, creating new forms of care and understanding. Emma also explored initiatives aimed at ensuring transparency and accountability in autonomous systems. She met with legal scholars advocating for explainable AI, where algorithms would be required to provide understandable reasons for their decisions. This movement aimed to restore integrity by making technology's inner workings accessible to users and regulators alike, building trust and reducing fear. The chapter further highlighted the growing role of interdisciplinary collaboration in shaping ethical innovation. Emma described how technologists worked alongside philosophers, sociologists, and community representatives to co-create solutions sensitive to diverse values and needs. This approach broke down traditional silos, fostering cultures of empathy and respect across fields. Emma's writing captured the excitement and uncertainty of this frontier. She depicted laboratory scenes alive with curiosity and tension, policy debates balancing innovation and caution, and communities imagining how new tools might enhance or disrupt their lives. Her prose wove these threads into a narrative emphasizing that the future of kindness and integrity in technology depended on conscious choices by individuals and institutions alike. Public response to this chapter was hopeful and reflective. Readers engaged in discussions about their own visions for technology's role in society, and educators began incorporating ethical foresight into curricula. Tech companies referenced Emma's work in training programs designed to cultivate empathy among engineers and leaders. On a personal level, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. The future was not predetermined but shaped by the values and actions of those daring to dream and act with compassion. This chapter was a call to arms, inviting all stakeholders to participate in crafting a future where kindness and integrity were not just ideals but lived realities. Emma prepares to conclude her journey by reflecting on the lessons learned and the enduring power of human connection amid rapid technological change. She understands that while machines may evolve, it is the heart, the capacity for empathy and courage, that will ultimately define the legacy of innovation. Emma sat at her desk, the glow of her laptop casting soft light across the notes, interviews, and stories she had gathered over months of relentless pursuit. The journey through innovation's complex landscape had been as much a personal transformation as a professional one. She had begun with curiosity about Elon Musk's secret kindness but ended up uncovering something far deeper, the intricate dance between technology and humanity, marked by struggle, courage, and hope. Reflecting on everything, Emma realized that the core lessons she'd learned transcended any single person or company. First and foremost, she recognized that kindness and integrity were not just personal traits but cultural forces that required nurturing at every level, from individuals to institutions. Acts of courage, whether by whistleblowers risking careers or leaders reshaping corporate values, were vital sparks. But without systemic support, these acts could falter or be suppressed. Emma saw how policies, leadership models, and education needed to align to sustain ethical innovation. Emma also understood the power of storytelling itself. Through her writing, she had bridged gaps between technologists, regulators, and the public. She had witnessed how stories humanized complex issues, built empathy, and inspired action. The narratives of those she met, their fears, hopes, and triumphs, became a mirror reflecting society's broader aspirations and anxieties about technology's role. Another profound insight was the necessity of embracing complexity and uncertainty. The path toward kindness and integrity in technology was not straightforward. It involved trade-offs, setbacks, and ongoing dialogue among diverse stakeholders. Emma appreciated that ethical innovation was a dynamic process, evolving with new discoveries and challenges. Emma also reflected on her own growth. The challenges she faced, cynicism, frustration, moments of doubt, were balanced by deepening resilience and hope. Her relationships with Mia, Jake, and others grounded her, reminding her that connection was the heart of all progress. She realized that the pursuit of kindness in technology mirrored life itself, imperfect, demanding, yet endlessly meaningful. In her writing, Emma highlighted concrete lessons for readers and industry alike. She advocated for cultivating empathy through education, creating safe channels for ethical concerns, fostering transparent communication, and valuing long-term impact over short-term gains. These principles, she argued, could guide innovation toward a future where technology served humanity rather than exploited it. Public reaction to her reflective chapter was overwhelmingly positive. Readers expressed gratitude for the honesty and depth of her insights, many sharing their own stories of navigating ethical dilemmas in tech and beyond. Emma's words sparked conversations in workplaces, schools, and community groups about how to embed kindness and integrity into everyday decisions. Emma felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey had challenged her assumptions and expanded her worldview, yet it also reaffirmed her belief in the potential for good amid complexity. As she prepared to close this chapter of her investigation, she saw clearly that the story was not an endpoint but a foundation, a call to continue engaging, questioning, and caring. Emma looks ahead with cautious optimism, knowing that the real work of weaving kindness and integrity into technology's fabric lies with everyone who chooses to act with courage and compassion. The future, she believes, is still being written. And each person has a role in shaping its story. Emma knew that after months of uncovering stories, witnessing struggles, and exploring transformations, this final chapter had to capture not only what had been learned but also how these lessons could inspire a new beginning. The story of kindness and integrity in technology was no longer just an investigation or a narrative, it was a movement, an ongoing legacy that could ripple far beyond Silicon Valley and boardrooms into everyday life. She began by revisiting the very question that sparked her journey: what if kindness and integrity became foundational to innovation, shaping every decision and interaction? Could the secret kindness of figures like Elon Musk be the seed of a larger cultural shift? Emma believed the answer was yes, but only if people embraced the responsibility to nurture and expand this legacy. Emma's conversations with industry pioneers, community leaders, and everyday users revealed that this new beginning was already underway. Companies were designing products with empathy, leaders were listening more closely to employees and users, and regulators were creating frameworks that balanced progress with protection. Importantly, the public was no longer passive but actively participating in shaping technology's future. One of the most striking stories Emma shared was about a young coder named Alex who had built an app aimed at improving mental health through peer support and AI-guided coaching. Inspired by ethical principles, Alex's project emphasized transparency, user consent, and genuine connection. The app's success demonstrated that kindness-driven innovation could thrive commercially and socially, challenging the notion that ethics and profitability were at odds. Emma also explored how education systems were embedding ethics and empathy into STEM fields, preparing future innovators to think beyond code and profit margins. She described classrooms where students debated the societal impact of technology, collaborated on projects addressing real-world challenges, and developed a sense of responsibility toward the communities they would serve. As Emma wove these threads together, she emphasized that kindness and integrity were not static ideals but dynamic practices, living values expressed through daily actions and choices. She urged readers to see themselves as agents of change, whether as developers, consumers, educators, or policymakers. Her writing was rich with vivid examples and emotional resonance. She portrayed moments of breakthrough and setback, joy and struggle, connection and conflict, reflecting the complex reality of building a kinder, more ethical tech landscape. Emma's voice carried a tone of hopeful determination, inviting readers to join in crafting this new beginning. Public response to this final chapter was deeply moving. Readers expressed renewed inspiration and commitment, sharing how Emma's journey had sparked reflection and action in their own lives. Tech communities hosted discussions and workshops inspired by her work, while educators incorporated her insights into curricula. The story's ripple effect was palpable. Emma felt a profound sense of closure yet recognized that the journey continued. The legacy of kindness and integrity was not hers alone but belonged to everyone willing to embrace its promise. As she wrote the final lines, Emma looked forward to the unfolding future with cautious optimism and unwavering hope. The chapter closes with Emma's poignant reflection. Life's greatest innovations are not just in technology but in our capacity to care, to act with courage, and to build a world where progress and kindness walk hand in hand. This is not the end of the story, it is a new beginning. Emma never imagined that her journey to uncover the secret kindness of Elon Musk would evolve into something much larger than a simple story. As she delved deeper into the world of technology, ethics, and humanity, she realized that stories have the power to ripple outward, touching lives in ways she had not anticipated. Emma Told sparked change, inspired individuals, and created a community bound by the shared goal of kindness and integrity in technology and beyond. The ripple effect began modestly. After the publication of her final chapter, readers flooded her inbox and social media with messages. People from all walks of life, engineers, students, activists, parents, and even skeptics, shared how Emma's words resonated with their own experiences and struggles. Some wrote about moments when they had felt isolated in their ethical concerns at work and how Emma's stories gave them the courage to speak up. Others told her how the story inspired them to reconsider how they interacted with technology in daily life, fostering a more mindful and compassionate approach. One email stood out to Emma, a message from a high school teacher named Lisa in Ohio who had used Emma's articles to design a new curriculum focused on ethics and empathy in technology classes. Lisa described how students who once saw technology solely as coding and gadgets began to appreciate its human impact. They debated ethical dilemmas, collaborated on socially responsible projects, and even organized community events to promote digital kindness. Lisa's initiative blossomed into a statewide program, illustrating how a single story could ignite educational transformation. Emma also heard from industry professionals who had formed new groups and alliances inspired by her work. One group, called KindTech Collective, brought together engineers, designers, and ethicists committed to embedding kindness into product development. Through regular meetings, workshops, and hackathons, they cultivated a culture where compassion was a guiding principle rather than an afterthought. Members reported that this community not only enhanced their work but also provided emotional support, reducing burnout and fostering resilience. Another remarkable development was the rise of grassroots advocacy movements that used Emma's stories as a foundation for campaigns demanding greater transparency, accountability, and user empowerment in tech companies. Activists leveraged social media, public forums, and policy advocacy to hold leaders accountable, creating pressure for meaningful change. Emma documented these movements, portraying the powerful synergy between storytelling and collective action. Emma also reflected on her personal growth throughout this ripple effect. The connections she forged with readers and changemakers expanded her perspective and deepened her commitment. She realized that storytelling was not just about uncovering facts or sharing experiences, it was a catalyst for empathy, dialogue, and transformation. Emma embraced a new role as a connector and facilitator, helping to bridge gaps between sectors and communities. Her writing style in this chapter was intimate and inspiring, capturing the emotional breadth of the ripple effect. She described heartfelt testimonials, vibrant community gatherings, and moments of breakthrough when isolated individuals found solidarity. Emma's prose conveyed the sense of a movement gaining momentum, a network of kindness and integrity spreading across the technological landscape and into everyday lives. The public reception of Chapter 21 was profoundly encouraging. Readers shared their own stories of how Emma's journey had motivated them to take action, big or small. Many expressed gratitude for the sense of hope and belonging the story fostered. Industry leaders noted increased interest in ethical initiatives, and educators continued to expand programs inspired by Emma's work. As the chapter closes, Emma contemplates the future, not as a solitary author but as part of a larger community committed to kindness and integrity. She writes, "The story I began to tell was never just about one person or one company. It is the story of all of us, connected by the choices we make and the compassion we show. Together, we are creating ripples that can change the course of technology, and perhaps the world." Emma's journey had come full circle, evolving from curiosity about a single figure's kindness to witnessing a collective awakening. The ripple effect was a testament to the enduring power of stories to inspire, unite, and transform. As Emma looked ahead, she knew that the story, and the movement, were far from over. Emma stood at the crossroads of an ever-accelerating digital revolution, aware that the future of technology was not just about algorithms, data, or innovation but about preserving the essence of what makes us human. As she reflected on the stories she had gathered, the transformations she had witnessed, and the ripple effects she had helped ignite, she understood that embracing humanity in a digital age was the ultimate challenge, and opportunity. The world was more connected than ever, yet paradoxically, people often felt isolated. Social media platforms, while offering unprecedented communication, sometimes fueled division, misinformation, and superficial interactions. Emma recognized that technology, for all its wonders, could never replace genuine human connection. Instead, it must be designed to enhance empathy, foster understanding, and cultivate kindness. She explored projects at the forefront of this mission, initiatives combining cutting-edge tech with deep ethical commitments. One inspiring example was a virtual reality program developed to help people experience life from another's perspective, breaking down barriers of race, class, and culture. Emma described how users reported profound shifts in empathy after immersive experiences, opening hearts and minds in ways traditional education could not. Emma also examined the burgeoning field of digital well-being, where designers and psychologists collaborated to create technologies promoting mental health and balanced usage. She highlighted apps that encouraged mindful engagement, digital detoxing, and supportive online communities. These innovations reflected a growing awareness that technology's benefits depended on thoughtful integration into human life. As she delved deeper, Emma interviewed diverse voices, philosophers, technologists, community leaders, each stressing that ethical technology must prioritize dignity, respect, and inclusivity. They argued that the real measure of progress was not speed or profit but the quality of human experience it fostered. Emma recounted stories of individuals using technology to amplify kindness and justice. Activists organizing through encrypted networks, educators reaching underserved populations via digital classrooms, and families maintaining bonds across distances with innovative communication tools. These narratives underscored technology's potential to uplift and unite when wielded with care. Yet Emma was honest about the challenges. She acknowledged the digital divide that left many marginalized, the risks of surveillance and data exploitation, and the moral dilemmas posed by automation and AI. These issues demanded vigilance, robust governance, and ongoing public engagement. Emma's writing wove these threads into a compelling vision, a future where technology and humanity were not at odds but partners in creating a more compassionate world. She urged readers to embrace responsibility, not only as consumers or creators of technology but as stewards of the human spirit in a digital era. The chapter's tone was both reflective and hopeful, inviting readers to consider their own roles in shaping this future. Emma challenged them to act with intention, kindness, and courage, reminding them that every choice, from coding decisions to daily interactions, could ripple outward and shape society. Public response to Chapter 22 was deeply thoughtful. Readers engaged in discussions about balancing innovation with empathy and shared personal commitments to fostering kindness in their digital lives. Educators and community groups incorporated Emma's insights into programs promoting digital citizenship and ethical technology. Emma felt a profound sense of completion yet recognized that embracing humanity in a digital age was an ongoing journey. The story she had told was a beginning, a foundation for continuous dialogue, learning, and growth. As she penned the final lines, Emma reflected. In a world transformed by technology, the greatest innovation lies in our ability to remain human, to connect, to care, and to choose kindness every day. This is the legacy we build together, one compassionate act at a time. With that, Emma closed her laptop, hopeful and ready to continue the work ahead, knowing that the future was in the hands of those willing to embrace humanity in every digital advance. Emma had spent countless hours tracing the public stories of innovation and ethics, the bold moves of industry giants, and the sweeping cultural shifts they inspired. But as she dove deeper, she realized a vital part of the story was often overlooked, the unseen heroes behind the scenes whose quiet acts of kindness and integrity made progress possible. This chapter was her tribute to those unsung individuals whose influence was profound yet invisible to most. She began by recounting stories from various corners of the tech world: junior engineers who refused to cut corners despite pressure, customer service reps who went above and beyond to help users, and mid-level managers who advocated for ethical practices when it was safer to stay silent. Emma highlighted how these individuals, often anonymous and undervalued, formed the backbone of a culture that could nurture true innovation with heart. One compelling example came from Mia, Emma's close friend and ethical tech consultant, who shared tales of developers who risked their jobs to report harmful bugs or biased algorithms. These whistleblowers faced personal and professional hardships, but their courage prevented potentially devastating consequences. Emma wrote with admiration about how these acts of integrity echoed the larger themes of her investigation: courage, kindness, and sacrifice. Emma also explored the role of mentorship and community support in fostering these unseen acts of kindness. She described how senior leaders who prioritized empathy and ethical guidance created environments where new employees felt safe to voice concerns and pursue ethical innovation. These cultural investments, though intangible, had measurable impacts on product quality and company reputation. She turned to examples from open-source communities where volunteers contributed countless hours to develop software that empowered marginalized groups, enhanced accessibility, or protected privacy. These grassroots efforts demonstrated how kindness could be encoded into technology by communities driven by shared values rather than profit motives. Emma's writing captured the tension these unseen heroes often navigated: the conflict between corporate demands and personal ethics, the emotional labor of advocating for kindness in fast-paced environments, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing their actions mattered even if unnoticed. Her prose conveyed empathy and respect, inviting readers to recognize and honor these invisible contributions. The chapter also touched on the ripple effects of these small acts. Emma illustrated how a single act of integrity could inspire colleagues, influence leadership, and gradually shift organizational culture. She described moments when kindness sparked innovation, when listening to user feedback led to breakthroughs, or when ethical dilemmas sparked creative problem-solving. Emma's public reception to this chapter was heartfelt. Many readers wrote to share their own stories as unseen heroes or to thank her for acknowledging their struggles and victories. The chapter fostered a renewed appreciation for everyday kindness and integrity in the workplace and beyond. Emma concluded the chapter with a powerful reflection: innovation is often celebrated for its breakthroughs and visionaries, but it is built on the quiet strength of countless unseen heroes. Their kindness and integrity are the foundation upon which we can build a future that truly serves humanity. Let us honor them. Not just in words but by creating spaces where their courage and compassion can flourish. This chapter deepened the story's emotional resonance by shining a light on the humble yet heroic acts that sustain progress. Emma's tribute to the unseen heroes reinforced her overarching message, that kindness and integrity, whether celebrated or silent, are the true engines of lasting innovation. Emma's investigation had taken her through stories of kindness, courage, and ethical innovation, yet one persistent challenge remained clear: the widening divide between technology and society. Despite rapid advancements, many people felt disconnected, skeptical, or even threatened by the technologies shaping their lives. In this chapter, Emma set out to explore how trust could be rebuilt, a bridge spanning the gap between innovators and the public, founded on transparency, dialogue, and shared values. She began by acknowledging the roots of mistrust. High-profile data breaches, opaque algorithms, and corporate scandals had left many feeling vulnerable and powerless. Public perception was shaped not only by direct experiences but also by sensational media coverage and misinformation. Emma understood that addressing this gap required more than technical fixes; it demanded cultural and relational change. Emma interviewed experts in communication, ethics, and public policy who emphasized that rebuilding trust was a long-term endeavor requiring humility and openness. They argued that technology leaders must move beyond marketing promises and actively engage with the communities they serve, listening deeply and responding authentically. Emma found inspiring examples of companies hosting town halls, creating advisory boards with diverse representation, and publishing transparency reports that demystified their processes. Emma also highlighted grassroots efforts where community organizations collaborated with tech companies to co-create solutions addressing local needs. These partnerships fostered mutual respect and empowered users as active participants rather than passive consumers. Emma described a project in Detroit where residents worked alongside engineers to design accessible public transit apps, ensuring the technology reflected real-world challenges and priorities. She examined how education played a crucial role in bridging the divide. Digital literacy programs were equipping people not only with technical skills but also with critical thinking to navigate complex information landscapes. By demystifying technology and encouraging inquiry, these initiatives helped build confidence and reduce fear. Emma was candid about ongoing obstacles, economic disparities, cultural differences, and systemic biases that complicated trust-building efforts. She stressed that genuine trust required addressing these root issues and committing to equity and inclusion. Emma featured voices from marginalized communities who shared their skepticism and hopes, reminding readers that trust was earned through consistent respect and meaningful action. Her writing brought alive the emotional landscape of this challenge: the frustration of feeling unheard, the hope sparked by authentic connection, and the cautious optimism when bridges began to form. Emma's prose invited readers to see themselves as both beneficiaries and builders of trust in the digital age. The chapter's release sparked widespread discussion. Readers appreciated the balanced perspective and practical insights, sharing their own experiences of mistrust and reconciliation with technology. Community forums and professional groups used Emma's work to guide conversations on transparency and engagement. Policymakers referenced her findings in efforts to craft more inclusive tech governance. Emma ended the chapter with a call to action: trust is not a given, it is earned through respect, transparency, and shared purpose. Bridging the divide between technology and society requires all of us to listen, learn, and act with humility. Only then can we build a future where innovation is not feared but embraced as a force for good. As she closed her laptop, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey to uncover kindness and integrity in technology had revealed many truths, but perhaps the most vital was that progress depended on relationships, on the bonds of trust that connect creators and communities. The path forward was clear: to build those bonds, one conversation, one act of transparency, one step at a time. Emma had spent years unraveling stories of innovation, kindness, and ethical struggles within the tech world. As her journey neared its final chapters, she felt compelled to look ahead, to envision a future where technology didn't just dazzle with its capabilities but also resonated deeply with human values. This chapter was her hopeful manifesto, a call to innovate with heart and purpose. She began by reflecting on the lessons learned from her research, that innovation without empathy risks alienation, that technological advances must be paired with ethical reflection, and that the most profound progress integrates human dignity at every step. Emma believed the future belonged to those who could balance imagination with responsibility. Emma explored emerging fields and visionary projects that embodied this ethos. One example was the rise of human-centered AI, where developers designed algorithms to assist, not replace, human decision-making, focusing on fairness, transparency, and inclusivity. She described companies experimenting with AI tools that enhance education, healthcare, and environmental stewardship, highlighting stories of real people positively impacted by these innovations. She also discussed the growing emphasis on sustainability in technology. Innovators were crafting solutions mindful of the planet's limits, developing renewable energy tech, reducing electronic waste, and creating devices designed for longevity and repairability. Emma portrayed these efforts as acts of kindness not just to humanity but to future generations. Emma interviewed thought leaders advocating for tech for good initiatives where technology supported social justice, accessibility, and global equity. She detailed projects empowering underserved communities through affordable connectivity, digital literacy, and platforms amplifying marginalized voices. These narratives underscored the power of innovation to bridge divides rather than deepen them. Yet Emma acknowledged the complexities ahead. She didn't shy away from discussing the ethical dilemmas posed by emerging tech, biotechnology, surveillance, AI autonomy, and the need for ongoing vigilance, diverse perspectives, and adaptive governance. Innovation, she argued, was not a destination but an evolving journey requiring humility and collective wisdom. Her writing style blended vivid descriptions of breakthrough moments with reflective insights, weaving together technical possibilities and human stories. Emma painted a picture of a future where technology served as a partner in solving humanity's greatest challenges rather than a disruptor of social fabric. Public reception to this chapter was deeply encouraging. Readers expressed inspiration and renewed commitment to advocating for ethical innovation. Educational institutions used Emma's vision to spark dialogues about the responsibilities of future technologists. Industry leaders cited her insights in shaping corporate values and strategies. Emma concluded the chapter with an uplifting affirmation: the future of technology is not predetermined. It is shaped by the choices we make today, to innovate with heart, to prioritize purpose, and to center humanity in every line of code, every design, and every decision. Together, we can build a tomorrow where technology uplifts us all. As she finished writing, Emma felt a profound sense of hope. Her journey had revealed the challenges and triumphs of integrating kindness into innovation. Now, it was time to look forward, to embrace a vision where technology and humanity advanced hand in hand, driven by compassion, wisdom, and shared dreams. Emma sat quietly in her favorite cafe, the soft hum of conversations blending with the distant sounds of city life outside. Her journey through the labyrinth of innovation, kindness, and ethics had been long and winding, but now it was time to contemplate something deeper, the legacy of kindness and what it meant for generations yet to come. This chapter was her meditation on how the stories she had uncovered might inspire not only the present but the future. The world was changing faster than ever, and technology was woven into the very fabric of daily existence. Children born today would grow up with artificial intelligence, virtual realities, and biotechnological wonders as commonplace as electricity. Emma believed that embedding kindness into this evolving landscape was not just desirable but essential. She envisioned a future where ethical principles were taught as foundational lessons alongside reading and math, where compassion was coded into algorithms as naturally as function and form. Emma reflected on the stories of individuals she had met, young innovators, passionate educators, and activists, who were already planting the seeds of this legacy. She described a high school robotics team in California that designed assistive devices for disabled peers, blending technical skill with heartfelt empathy. Their project wasn't just about winning competitions, it was about creating technology that honored human dignity and amplified ability. She highlighted community programs teaching coding and digital literacy in underserved neighborhoods, emphasizing how these initiatives empowered youth to become creators rather than just consumers. Emma noted how these young minds, encouraged to think ethically from the start, could reshape the tech industry with values of fairness, inclusivity, and kindness. Emma also addressed the vital role of storytelling in preserving and transmitting this legacy. Stories, she argued, were powerful tools for teaching empathy and ethics, narratives that illustrated not just what technology could do, but why it should be done with care and respect for all life. She recounted how educators used her own work as a springboard for classroom discussions, sparking curiosity and reflection among students. The chapter explored how families could nurture kindness in a digital age. Emma shared insights from psychologists and sociologists about balancing screen time with real-world connection, encouraging mindful tech use, and fostering environments where empathy flourished alongside innovation. These practices, she wrote, would help children grow into adults who valued human connection as much as technological prowess. Emma was candid about challenges ahead: economic inequality, misinformation, and ethical gray areas would test future generations. Yet she expressed profound optimism, confident that with the right guidance and examples, young people could rise to meet these challenges with integrity and heart. Her prose was warm and inspiring, painting a vivid picture of classrooms buzzing with questions about ethics, families sharing conversations about digital kindness, and communities rallying around shared values. Emma invited readers to see themselves as part of this living legacy, entrusted with shaping a future where technology served humanity's highest ideals. The chapter's release sparked heartfelt responses. Parents, teachers, and young readers wrote to Emma expressing hope and determination to carry forward the message of kindness. Educational organizations incorporated the themes into curricula and outreach programs, and tech companies launched mentorship initiatives inspired by the vision of a kinder future. Emma closed the chapter with a poignant reflection: legacy is not just what we leave behind. It is what we choose to cultivate in those who follow. By weaving kindness into the story of technology, we gift future generations the tools not only to innovate but to care deeply, to question bravely, and to build a world where every advance honors our shared humanity. Sitting back with a smile, Emma felt the circle of her journey complete yet continuing. The legacy of kindness was alive, in classrooms, homes, and hearts, ready to inspire tomorrow's innovators to dream, create, and care with boundless courage and compassion. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?